everyone, welcome to The Trade. Before we get into the charts, let's have a quick look at what traders are watching out there. And US President Trump has said he'll speak to Russia's Vladimir Putin about ending the Ukraine war with territorial concessions by Kyiv and control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant likely to feature prominently in the talks. New economic projections from the Federal Reserve will provide the most tangible evidence yet of how central bankers view the likely impact of Trump's policies that have previously clouded a solid economic outlook. The Fed expected to hold its benchmark interest rate steady in the 4.25% to 4.5% range at the end of its two-day policy meeting this week. The RBA says it remains more cautious than the market about the prospects for further policy easing after it cut interest rates for the first time in over 4 years last month. The RBA cut interest rates by a quarter point to 4.1% at its February meeting, with the board saying it didn't want to lag other central banks that had already eased. And concerns that the Trump administration's metals tariffs could divert a wave of aluminium to Europe have prompted the European Commission to consider possible curbs on imports, this according to a draft EU plan. The EU also considering duties on its own exports of scrap metals to shore up the industry. And gold prices, of course, firming, sitting just below the $3,000 a mark ounce that was broken last week, the focus on trade tariffs and the Fed's policy meeting. Well, of course, it was F1 over the weekend. Let's get across the technicals. Mandi Rafsanjani from tradingpsychology.com.au joins me now. It was an exciting race, the weather very much in focus there, Mandi. What can traders learn from what we saw at the F1?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Juliet. Yeah, it was such an interesting day, wasn't it? Like during the qualifier, it was 36 degrees and the drivers were sweating in their seats. And apparently it gets like to 60 degrees Celsius inside the car. Like, that's crazy. And then the next day, at the day of the real race, it was raining and 20 degrees and wind gusts. And I remember one driver, he was saying, my seat is all wet, it's leaking somewhere. And it was the rain, so he was sitting in the water. And so it reminds me a little bit about the markets at the moment, or, like before the markets actually rolled over. It was such a crazy volatility. And, one of my traders, I worked with him a few weeks ago. Oh, it's so heartbreaking. I actually sent you guys a chart. He had this experience, that's the one exactly, where he nailed a double top on the ES, right? And he was so sure the market's going to roll over, and he thought that's his big break. He's going to take his wife on a massive vacation. And he added first one contract, and then he pushed it too hard. And like our boy Piastro, he spinned out, got bombed out just a day before the market rolled over, and the market went right towards his profit target and even further without him. And so that's what Piastri also experienced, pushing his car too hard in that rain, in those in those environments.
Yeah, I think we all feel like we're experts after watching Drive to Survive, don't we? That was sad when he spun out. What do you think are the parallels, though, between driving in the F1 and trading?
Yeah, it was really interesting because did a little bit of research and also spoke with a friend of mine who just started coaching a race car driver. So these drivers, they have to make split decisions in split seconds under uncertainty, like we do. Now they call it clutch decisions, which I love that word. Then also they constantly have to trade or drive under new conditions, under new circumstances, because every weekend they drive in a different country, different weather, different tarmac, right? Then their race car, to me, is like our trading strategy. Does it have an edge? And then even if it has an edge, we, the driver, we have to learn how to drive our strategy. And that's where the skill set and also the mindset is really, really important. Navigating the pitfalls of the circuit, the race car circuit, as well as the trading circuit. And my friend, what he does is he actually hangs his driver upside down and lets him drive on the simulator upside down, so that he gets used to weird situations. Just really interesting.
So we've got some of those, mindset attributes that F1 drivers have up on screen there. Just talk us through some of those in terms of how they then relate to trading.
So what I did is I looked at what is the superpower of each of these great race car drivers. Everybody has a different superpower. Like my traders, not every trader is the same. Everyone's so different. So Lewis Hamilton, for example, he's got a strong self-belief, right? He's so sure of himself. But at the same time, we know ego and self-belief can be very close together. At the same time, he never gets complacent. He keeps being a lifelong learner, keeps practicing, keeps expanding. So that I thought was really interesting. Then Michael Schumacher, of course, I have to mention him because I'm German. He was a freak in terms of preparation, the 7 Ps on the military, right? Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And he was putting a lot of high demand on his team. He wasn't easy to work with, apparently, but he had the same demands on himself. His fitness regime, his nutrition regime was insane, a bit like Djokovic, actually. And then we have, what's his name? The Dutch guy, Max. And he
Max
was
Verstappen.
Thank you, exactly. So he is known for being super stoic. And I don't know if you saw the interview with the journalist, and he asked him, how did you stay so stoic, so calm in this crazy weather conditions? And he's like, that's just what I trained for. That's just what we do, So really calm and focused, nothing could waver him. And then, of course, we have Fernando Alonso. And I have a trader, he's like him. Alonso had a lot of setbacks, but he didn't dwell on the past. He would always learn from his mistakes and come back bigger and better. And I have a trader, he's phenomenal. He's like in his mid 7 figures in terms of yearly profits. And because he trades stocks, sometimes they gap, right, overnight. And he had recently a $500,000 loss overnight. And it throws him so much, but he's got this massive, strong mindset and he comes back just like Alonso, right? Very strong mindset. And then Sebastian Vettel, he's my favorite. So he's more of the smart driver. He pushes it at the beginning and then he navigates the race. So that's kind of like what we need to do in terms of trade management, because entry and exits are easy, but the managing the trade in between, should I stay in, should I get out? That's the hard part. And that's what Sebastian is really good at.
Interesting stuff, Mandi, and we miss Aussie Daniel Ricciardo as well, don't we? He was always a fun one to watch. Thank you so much.
That is right.
Mandi Rafsanjani from tradingpsychology.com.au, talking through how we can see some parallels between trading and the F1 that we had in Melbourne over the weekend. That does it for this edition of The Trade. We'll see you next time.